Hello and welcome to this quick video about this thing here. This is the Eachine TS130. This is a little 3-inch model. This is a PNP version, also available in bind and fly as well. I'm a little late with this review. Lots of people managed to get theirs out over Christmas. I was too busy partying and having a wonderful time. So this is my review of it, and as you can see, it comes in a really nice box with lots of spares, with 2 sets of props, and this is one of those models that will easily get under the 250 gram limit. And going forward, I will actually put all of the models that are 250 grams or below in this playlist that I'll link to here in the top right hand corner. I'll also go through the old videos too and add those in, so you can just look in one place for all the stuff that's legal if you're in a place that can't fly above 250 grams without lots of messing about. Now, hopefully, as I'm going through this, you'll see that the 2 sets of props, we've got cable ties, we've even got little nut spinners, and the model itself is very impressive. It's very reminiscent of the larger 5-inch Wizard that I looked at last year, just like a baby version. We have the cable stuck out the back, which is where we are going to connect an S-Bus receiver to, and it's pretty much ready to go. You can see here how it's all plugged together. We have a VTX on the top, we have an XT30 connector at the back, flight controller, a 4-in-1 ESC, and we have this finish on the frame itself. The frame itself is very similar to lots of the other Eachine models, and the Eachine motors themselves feel very nice indeed. My camera is pointing straight forward. As you'll see, it's very easy to do. Just undo those 2 screws. That's actually 2 little soft TPU 3D printed mounts at the side that's vibration isolating the whole model. Now, the specs on this thing, it's a 135mm wheelbase, 3K carbon fibre, 2mm top plate. The bottom plate is 3mm. It has got those transfers on it as well. The weight completely empty, but with a receiver is about 146 grams. But with the battery that I've got on here, which is this 650 milliamp hour 3S unit from Race Day Quads, it's weighing about 209 grams. So you could easily put a larger battery on here without any problems at all. 20 amp ESCs with a burst of 25 amp, supporting up to D-Shot 600. Brushless motors on this are 1507 4100 kV brushless motors, capable of supporting 3 and 4S. There's an Omnibus F4 flight controller in here, and a little stackable VTX that actually connects using a set of pins. So there's no cable, it just snaps into the top of the flight controller, which is a really neat way of doing it. Supports 7 to 24 volts, smart audio as well, and also supports 25, 100 and 200 milliwatts. But to be honest, I've been flying it on 25 with linear antennas and it's worked really well. At the front, there's a Foxeer Arrow Micro Pro camera. That's 600 TVL lines, 0.01 lux, Sony Super had 2 CCD chip in the middle of it, and it performs really well. I'll show you a quick little bit of FPV footage in a while, and you'll see how well it performs even on a really rubbish overcast UK day. Now, I've just installed an X4R on the top here and popped it using the standard way with a couple of cable ties at the bottom and plugged it into the S-Bus. Now, there isn't a lot of room in here, but there is enough room for a little micro receiver, so something like one of the small FR Sky receivers would fit really well. But I didn't want to start chopping the cable up and messing about, and I'll explain why at the end of the video. So plugging it into Betaflight to see how it all works. Unfortunately, the receiver isn't powered when you power the system from the USB 5 volts, so you have to plug in the battery for the first time. In Betaflight, it looks like this, very standard stuff. So everything bursts into life, gyro accelerometer, we've got everything working. The ports look like this. None of the ports are actually set in mine for smart audio, which is probably why my smart audio wasn't working when I first started playing with this. The 8K and 2K loop frequencies, S-Bus set by default, LED strips turned on, even though there isn't an LED strip on here. The air mode isn't turned on by default. I'm going to turn that on because that's the way I tend to like to have it. And the on-screen display is turned on as well, so we'll quickly save and reboot that. Flight modes by default, there's no arming stuff set, so you are going to have to come into Betaflight to set all of this stuff up. The only thing there by default was the angle mode, so if you aren't sure about setting up Betaflight, go and have a look at my Betaflight bind and fly setup video. It's a slightly older version of Betaflight, this, as we'll see. You can see in the bottom right hand corner here actually, 3.1.7, so it's a little bit old. I could flash it and update it, but for the test I'll leave it as absolutely standard. So last job before we go out and give it a quick fly, I'll show you a little bit of flight footage, is to move everything around in the on-screen display, set it to how I want, and then away we go. So very quick little bit of FPV footage. This is what it's like, this is what it's looking like. With a 3S battery, it's hovering under 50% throttle, loads of power, and even on these overcast conditions, it's working really well. So what do I think? Well, it's another nice quad from Eachine. They certainly seem to be getting quite good at putting these things together. I love the fact it's easy to get below the 250 gram limit, and everything that you want is kind of on here straight out the box. Flies well on 3S, flies crazily on 4S. The tune is okay. It's quite a light model, so you tend to get a little bit of flutter when it comes into its own prop wash, but you kind of have that on most models that are as light as this. Like the way it's delivered inside the box. It's a great way to keep it nice and safe. Love the fact there's actually two sets of props in here. The blue set that I've got on here, and also a clear set as well. The props themselves aren't bad, and they are pretty robust. This one's bounced around the field in the testing and flying that I've been doing. Betaflight is pretty good out the box, but you are going to have to go in and set up your flight modes and make sure that your receiver's all working, and the camera and video transmitter performed really nicely. I do love the fact that you got those little TPU mounts, which is vibration isolating that camera. Build quality and the frame are good. This is a mini version of its bigger brother, and it performs really well, and it's a great little outdoor quad that represents good value for money. So things to consider, there wasn't a joystick in the box, which allows you to turn off the pieces from the Foxeer camera. I'm not a fan personally of getting cameras like this where they have their own on-screen display. I think they should be turned off at the factory if you're going to have a Betaflight on-screen display instead. As I said, I struggled to get the video transmitter to change from the OSD. There is a little button on the side which makes it easy, but that's because the smart audio stuff wasn't set up in the ports out the factory. That's a bit of an oversight. That would have been nice to see straight out the box. Again, not tons of room for your receiver in here, so make sure you got one of the little micro receivers with S-Bus. Just clip off the servo connector and solder that up, and away you'll go. And the last point here is just be careful of the linear antenna that's on here. You are going to have to use a linear antenna set on your goggles. This is what I use with mine that I was flying it with at 25 milliwatts, and it was working really nicely. And I'd recommend using one of the supplied cable ties to just support the antenna in a vertical position, as it can flop around and it can get dangerously close to those props that will neatly cut it in two if it gets too close. So in summary, I like it. It's a very capable little model, and it's great for those of you that need something below the 250 gram limit. This one needs to find a new home, so I'm announcing a giveaway. So thank you to all of you that stayed right to the very end. If you're interested in being entered into the prize draw, then all you have to do is like this video, pop a comment down below, and make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. I'll pull the names out the hat in about a week, and somebody can take this model off my hands and give it some serious flying over the coming months. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support, and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlist around iNav. So thanks again for watching, and happy flying.